Jardos prepared to rule the kingdom whether his niece accepted him or not. He was certain his brother had only days left. Whether she came to him or not, the crown, the throne, and all the power were about to be his. When that happened, he could take his niece for his own, whether she consented or not. The next morning, Jardos watched his fair niece leave the castle, headed on another of her pointless trips to gather flowers. Ugh, what a disgusting habit! She fills the castle with flowers of vibrant colors that irritate my eyes and nauseatingly sweet smells that claw my nose. It makes me sick, Jardos complained in his head. Jardos noted that when Ivy had not returned by lunch, as she normally did, how the rest of the castle grew restless, waiting for her return. He found himself thinking, with any luck, she has been ambushed by a beast in the forest. No one can pin that on me, and it would serve my purposes. Jardos smirked, satisfied with the tension that grew in the castle as the day progressed. Then, close to dinner, his confidence came crashing down with the sound of a horse's hoofs. Echoes of the horse's galloping steps bounced off trees and leaves, moss and bark, stone and stream, that surrounded the castle as Ivy made her way home. Jardos looked out his window and, to his surprise, saw, riding alongside her, a man he'd never seen before. When the pair arrived at the castle, the man lost no time in introducing himself to everyone as Prince Levon, who, having met Ivy that day, wanted nothing more than to complete his happiness through marrying her. The prince lost no time in asking for the king's permission. To Jardos' dismay, the king mustered the strength to nod in consent. Not able to believe he could have such bad luck, Jardos set out to rectify the situation he found himself in immediately. The couple was to be wed in 3 days. He would be ready. In the dead of the night, Jardos snuck down into the cellar of potions. He spent several hours looking through the vials, being sure to select the most deadly of them all for his niece and her fiancé. He knew he could manage to slip something in their drinks before the wedding toast began. Poisoning my brother is working well enough. Why not try my niece as well? I'll need something a little quicker this time. He fumbled through the cabinet, searching for a certain bottle. After picking up the potion he was looking for, Jardos froze. He had heard something behind him. He turned to see Prince Schlevon, standing in the doorway, several guards with him. From the look on Schlevon's face, Jardos was sure Ivy had mentioned him to her fiancé. Suspicion lay in the prince's eyes and wrinkled forehead. "What do you have there, dear uncle?" Schlevon asked. "It's no concern of yours, boy," he retorted. "Now, that is not very polite. Come now, we will be family in just a matter of days. Show me what it is you have." When Jardos refused to show the prince the vials of poison he held in his hand, the prince ordered the guards to grab him. He was no match for their strength. Jardos watched as the bane of his existence inspected the vials of poison, watching as realization spread across the prince's features. Schlevon wasted no time in pointless conversation with him. Schlevon personally watched over Jardos, still restrained by the guards, until morning, when the shocking news of Jardos' plan to kill his niece and her fiancé would be revealed to all. Jardos grew impatient, waiting for the queen and his niece to awaken. At long last they appeared in the great room. Jardos watched as Schlevon approached them. He could see him calmly telling Ivy and her mother of what had passed the night before. A whirlwind of emotions played across their faces as they processed what Schlevon told them. Ivy glanced past him to Jardos for a brief moment before saying, "We must speak with my father before any action is taken." Jardos knew he had only a few minutes before the women returned with the decision against him. He racked his brain for any option that may lead him out of this desperate situation. Though it pained him to think of it, he knew he had only one option: an apology. It would not be sincere, he felt no regret, but possibly he could trick his unsuspecting niece. Yes, that's what I'll do. She'll probably fall for it too, the trusting fool. He watched for Ivy to return. When she did, she came directly to him. "Dear niece," he began, "I don't know what came over me. Please, forgive me. We are family." He could barely force himself to say the words, his throat constricted on the lies, choking on his hatred. "You don't mean that. We all know it. It is time to stop the lies, Jardos. "We have loved you the best we can, but given last night's events, it is time for you to leave," Ivy said. From there she explained what would happen to him. He would not be put to death, as was common in those days. On the contrary, they would be taking a potion from the very cellar where he was discovered the night before, and administering it to him. Knowing the effects of all the potions contained in the cellar, Jaidas was afraid. He was surprised to hear that he would be dosed with one potion, the one which would keep him alive forever. Jaidas could not hide his confusion from his niece, so she continued in her reasoning. She was not so heartless to be responsible for the death of her uncle. Instead, her compassionate heart, guided by her parents' teaching, decided to give him the chance of a lifetime, to learn from his mistakes. She informed him that he would be banished from the kingdom and stripped of his royalty. He would have to rely on the kindness of others for food and shelter. In this way, he would have to learn civility in order to solicit help from others, so he may suffer less. Jaidas was instructed to tell everyone his story, so they might learn from his selfishness. Begrudgingly, he was escorted out of the kingdom and sent aboard a ship across the ocean. He struggled for a long time in the new land, unable to help himself, let alone solicit help from others. The scowl that was constantly on his face intimidated everyone he came across. For months he starved without food, suffering all the more, unable to go quietly into the night. Then one day, as he dozed off on the ground by the side of a road, a man set some bread beside him while whispering, "Here, looks like you need this more than I do." With that, the man smiled and continued on his journey. It took him a great effort to sit up and eat the bread. Jaidas hated himself for being so weak. He hated the strange spot of warmth he felt in his chest at the stranger's kind gesture. That one incident was the beginning of a long and painful path to humility. Transitioning from living in plenty to living in want proved difficult. He struggled with his pride, having nothing except the clothes on his back. As time passed, his rough edges slowly wore down. His appreciation to others for helping him was like an uncontrollable disease he could not stop from spreading throughout his body. The evil was replaced bit by bit with gratitude. Eventually all the hatred leaked out of him. Now, Jaidas will continue to live on, learning his lesson more with each passing day. "Whoa! He lived forever?" the tiny child said, leaning forward away from his mother, whose lap he had nestled into during the tale. "No, son, no one can live forever," the child's father said. Ignoring what the father said, the stranger replied, "He lives on to this very day." "Did he really learn to be nice?" the smallest daughter asked. "He sure did." The stranger looked away from the children for the first time since he began telling the story. His eyes grew unfocused. He continued in a soft yet convicted voice. Jaidas learned the value of kindness and truth. He turned fully from his cruel ways. He is now content to share his story with others. He has found he can be genuinely happy for his niece, and glad that good was able to triumph over someone so bad. With this, his focus returned to the family. No longer lost in memories past, he smiled at the children's believing faces. The parents made eye contact. Not sure they could believe it, yet they wondered. Could this man sitting in their family room be the uncle from the story? Was it really safe for him to be around their children? The children rubbed their eyes, yawning, no longer distracted from their weariness now that the story was over. The wife collected the children to take them upstairs to bed. The husband, in reserved politeness, offered the stranger the couch to sleep on for the night. Sensing the man's hesitation, the stranger turned down the offer. "I know you will sleep better if I take my absence now." "I understand. Truly, I do. Thank you for letting me share my story with your family." "Wait! It's cold outside. Here, take my jacket," the father said. The stranger donned the man's jacket, adding another layer to his rags. "Thank you, sir." And with that, the stranger left.